Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Gender equality and diversity is something that a lot of research managers and proposal preparers are struggling with on a day-to-day basis. It has been on the agenda for over a decade now from the EU Commission side, but it can still be a topic that is difficult to get your head around. Jakob Feldtfos Christensen is deeply involved in the debate on this topic. He is a research manager himself, and he has been running a podcast on diversity in research for some years now, trying to get a proper debate and get things down to earth. Now he has written a handbook for research managers on the topic, Diversity Leadership in Research Management, a practical guide. Of course, I have invited him into the virtual podcast studio to share about the content of the book, thoughts behind, and of course the process to write it. This one is for all research managers. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today we're going to talk about a book, and it's the second time in the lifetime of this podcast that I have a book conversation in the podcast. And of course, any book in this podcast is about funding, and so it's the one that we're going to talk about. It's the author I have here, and he's a recurring guest of this show. He's been in here a couple of times. Jakob, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Nice to have you back. And we not only have you been here a couple of times, we also fellow podcasters.
We are partners in crime.
Yeah. Few words about yourself before we start the conversation, and feel free to promote your podcast.
Thank you. My name is Jakob, and I'm the director of DIVERSIUNITY. So it's a consultancy in Denmark, and our aim is to make diversity and internationalization work in international research collaborations. And we'll of course get back into that today, because that's basically what the book is all about. And apart from that, I'm the co-host together with Lachlan Stevens-Smith of the Diversity in Research podcast, where we have you on before. And so it's a bit more of we have a narrower scope of our podcast. We talk about diversity and internationalization in research and research management. So and again, what the book is all about. And a bit about me: before I started the company, I have a background as a research manager at Aarhus University in Denmark, now at De Factum in Central Denmark region. And I have been active in DARMA and EARMA, and was part of the first cohort, the EARMA CRM, many moons ago. And it's some of all that work that the book we're talking about today is based on.
Yeah, because you are an old timer in the funding area, and it's public funding. So you know indeed what it is to be doing research management in research. And it's a growing field. You've been doing this for many years, as many of my guests also, but now it's becoming more and more solid. Profession also, I guess. Sure. What we're going to talk about today, your book, is an expression of a more and more mature profession, because then you also start having zooming in on different corners of research management.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. I think it's I've been in this game since 2011, I think. So coming up on 15 years, I've been working with variations of research management in different ways. So, and as you mentioned, the book is an expression of that, both that you can say that you can write an introduction to a section of research management, but also that you can have it published on a big publishing house, that they see that there is a market for this, I think tells a lot about how research management has developed in those 15 years since I started at Aarhus University.
Yeah, and we do have. So you've been in here twice, both yourself and with your partner in crime, Lachlan. And I will put a reference to these two episodes if you have anyone out there interested in diversity in research and how to deal with that in proposals and project management. Those two episodes are definitely for you, because both we take the topic in the one where we talk, and then we talk about your podcast and how you work with that with Lachlan. So I will put a link to those episodes, and to, of course, also to your organization and what you do. So now, Jakob.
Yep.
We're going to talk about your book. You wrote a book.
Yep. Diversity Leadership in Research Management, a Practical Guide is the official title.
Yeah. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. And as I did when I had the good Julia, you from Italy, in and explain about her book, I would like you to start sharing about the background and the motivation for this project, because writing a book it's not just something you sit down and do, right? It's a spare time project that that takes a lot of resources. So can you share with me and the listeners how you ended up putting pen to paper?
Yeah, I think it's primarily to avoid vacuum cleaning and doing dishes here at home. I decided to write this book. This seemed like a better use of my spare time. No, I think it was more. I think ever since we funded the company, people have been asking if they are saying that we should write a book. And in the beginning, I was hesitant, and I felt like I needed to be sure that we had something to say. And then a couple of years ago, it was like I could see I'm ready. I had the book in me. I could picture the outline of it. I knew what I wanted to say, what I wanted it to be able to do, and also that, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, the profession was maturing, and you can see that both the EU-funded projects on research management, but you could also see in other parts of the world, of course, the US, you could see how it was really maturing and broadening out, and you saw training in different ways. It was also this was back in the summer of 2024, so it was before Trump was re-elected, but you could already begin to see some pushbacks against wokeism and all these things. So it's like, it seemed like we needed something to clarify what this was in research, because it was the debate that was in the public square wasn't benefiting anybody. So that was a bit about why I decided this is the time, and we should have something practical to show people that this is not this discussion on Twitter or X or everywhere else, and blaming everybody. That there's a skills dimension to this. This is something we do, and if research managers do it, and they should, there are some skills, and here they are, and this is how you actually do it. And it's not just having the right opinions and saying them out loud. It's actions and skills.
Yeah, and maybe also the fact that it has put more stronger roots in when it comes to funding. Yeah, so from the commission side, if you're approaching funding, external funding for your activities as a researcher, it's more and more, it's there, and
It
it's
is.
solidly there. You can't just, you have to have an opinion about it. You have to be able to formulate
Yeah.
something about it other than 2-3 lines in a proposal.
Exactly, and particularly when they're in EU funding, you could see how it went from having a gender equality plan to you had to write a gender analysis, and we could definitely see how people were struggling with that,
Mhm.
and how they were at that time already they were beginning to use AI, and I could see all the problems emerging from that. We could also see, and but partly from our podcast, but also from our other work, how that discussion, when we talked about it here in Europe, when we say diversity, we mean gender. If you go to Canada or Australia, they would mean First Nations or
Yeah.
indigenous people. If you go to
Mhm.
other places, it would be more about class. It would be different things. So it's like we're not having the same conversation. And when you look at how the Commission is making Horizon Europe more and more global with associations with Canada, South Korea, New Zealand, now Japan as well, and of course, low and middle income countries can always participate, but making it more and more of a global program, talking about gender and diversity is a very different game for research managers as well, both here but also in the associated countries. And it felt like they needed a shared vocabulary and there's some shared skills to be working with this, unless it should go horribly wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's a good point,
Hmm.
because if like in all areas that are growing
Hmm.
out, that like from in mature non-maturity state to a more solid, there need to be good critical mass to write books or write reports or
Sure.
write put into paper, so to say, put something there of reflections and standards and so on to sort of, and then other people can write other books
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
they don't agree with you, or if they think thing has to be sharpened more, or
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
irrelevant or whatever, But this
Yeah,
is what it requires
it
for any
does.
area to have reflections, to have like from personal experience and professionals been working with this to sort of put things down, to be able to move on
Yeah,
further.
exactly. And I've very much said both in the opening of the book, and I also think on the very last page that I very much see this book as a conversation starter.
Yeah.
This is definitely not the final word there is to say about this. Quite the contrary. And of course, this builds on a lot of work by other people, because it's not. There's a lot of books out there on diversity generally, but also in research. But one of the challenges I found, and I've been part of these discussions, and of course discussed it with people because before just sitting down and write this, to say a lot of it is focusing on the institution itself, or on the researcher, or the topic of the research. But there's very little. There's if anything out there focusing on how to make it work in the research projects. And I think that is, and we can perhaps get back to that as well later. I think it felt a bit also like, even from the commission side, that now we had the gender equality plans. And that was the answer to everything. And I've even heard that from research managers as well. But a gender equality plan tells how you're going to work with gender and diversity, and perhaps even only gender, depending on how you write it, within your institution. But most research isn't done within an institution, it's done in externally funded research projects, interinstitutional, and often across borders. And if we are working, if our gender equality plan says that we're promoting LGBTQ plus issues, and a partner in the project is a country where being gay is illegal, our gender equality plan doesn't solve that.
Mhm.
And in that situation, the research manager linked to the project together with the researcher probably have to solve this, and we are leaving them with nothing. They have no tools, they have nowhere to go. We don't train them in these issues, and the answer they will get is probably HR and a gender equality plan, but those are institutional tools, and they are trying to navigate a no man's land.
Do you have a universal approach? You talk about Australia and New Zealand.
Yes, we've tried.
So it's not just Europe.
No, I mean, it does. It, of course, me being a gay man in Denmark and having primarily worked with European research funding, this scope is by definition European, no matter how hard I try. I try to use examples from every other places. But the point is, and I think that is one of the lessons from both our consultancy, but particularly the podcast, is that the tools are very much the same. The challenges might differ, and what we focus on might differ a bit, but how you approach it is often very much the same. And it is not because I'm trying to make specific solutions. The whole point of the book is to say, we have to make it work. It is about being pragmatic and finding solutions, because we have to make it work, even if I'm gay and we're promoting LGBTQ plus issues in our institution, and the partner institution is in a country where being gay is illegal. No matter what, now we have this money, we have this project, we bloody have to make it work. No matter what. So in that sense, I've tried to make it global, and to also to try to make it more global. I have 5 interviews in the book as well with research managers in different parts of the world to bring some different examples, but also make it more tangible, and have research managers use their own words about how they look at these things. And of course, the research manager from Senegal and the research manager from Canada look at these issues very, very differently for very good reasons.
Did you work together with countries where it's illegal to be homosexual?
For the book, Senegal, yes.
So Senegal,
yeah,
a lot of African countries.
Yeah. He says very clearly, when we talk about gender and diversity, we primarily mean gender, and that is difficult. We don't talk about LGBTQ plus issues because that's illegal here, and that's how things are. And I, of course, think that is terrible. But that's the world we live in, whether I like it or not, and we still have to make it work somehow. Am I going there? Probably not. Who knows? But but that's just, if we were in a project, we would have to make it work.
Yeah.
Pretending it doesn't exist doesn't solve it, and I think that is. If I should be a bit critical of the research management profession, I think a bit of it had been solved by pretending the problems don't exist, or by having good intentions. And that's not a bad thing, but it doesn't solve it.
It's a good bridge to the next section, where we will talk about the content of the book. So what topics are you covering? How's the structure? What's the philosophy? And so on. So now, Jakob, fold yourself out. Share with us what you did.
Yeah. So I think we tried, or what I decided to do, and let's see if I succeeded. But I wanted to write a book that both you could say is a comprehensive and coherent approach to how to work with diversity in international research collaborations as a research manager. So I wanted to make a practical book, and I wanted to make a short book that you could sit down and read in one setting. Perhaps a long setting, but one setting. It's like 170, 180 pages. So it's feasible. And so you could get a full view of it, but also have it in small chapters so that if you had a question about monitoring and evaluating how to deal with pushback, if you wanted to create an inclusive research support office, if you were working pre-award, you could sit down and you could read a short chapter of 8 to 15 pages and get a few tools and then go back to work. So you could have it on the shelf behind you and it could be a practical tool in your everyday work. So that was so I tried to make make a book. There are hardly any references. That's not because it's not based on research. It's not because I don't respect research, but I don't want it to be an academic discussion. I want it to be a everyday working tool, the book.
Yep.
That's not to say that there aren't any definitions, because we need to have, part of this is that we need a shared vocabulary about these things. But instead of going to defining it with a million references, just saying this is a research-based pragmatic definition that you can go out and use, whether we're talking about diversity, blah, 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 blah. And the whole idea, and I built the book about, is to say that we need to build diversity literacy. Because I think a lot of the discussion so far, and for better and worse, has been about we need representation, and we do. And part of this is also how we create environments where we can have representation. But representation without skills doesn't solve anything. This is also about skills and knowing what the challenges are, also because one person cannot represent a full group. So yes, representation is part of the solution, but it isn't the only solution. And we can't have everybody present everywhere all the time. And we still need to have these perspectives, take these perspectives into account in our work. So we need to build some level of diversity literacy in order to be able to do this this work. So that is what this whole thing is about, and what I basically think should be a core skill of diversity, of research management. Sorry. Whether you're working pre-award, post-award, strategy, open science, whatever field this might be, we are dealing with diversity. Because I don't think that we can say that we are supporting excellent research if it's research that doesn't represent the world or society in its full diversity. Whether we like it or not, the world is diverse, and if we can't bring that into the research in different ways, I don't think we can say that we're supporting excellent research.
It's ambitious to want to develop literacy.
It is.
Well, so you have to start somewhere.
Do.
Because that, I guess, is one of the big things because it's this debate that we also, of course, discussed it in our former podcast conversations about diversity, especially in the EU funding context. It has been laughed about and shrugging shoulders and so on in the beginning. But now we're moving into a place where people are taking it seriously. The commission is taking it seriously all along.
Yes.
But now also people start taking things serious. But you still have a lot of pushback from researchers that still say, why do we need to deal with this? So, of course, this, I guess it makes a lot of sense, especially for the translators, the research managers of the research organizations, both RTOs, the private ones, and the universities, in order to have a handbook on easily to say, okay, we need to what's the language of this area? What are the definitions? How do we label things? How do we categorize things when we have to talk about these? How do I talk with my research teams about this? How do I myself prepare myself to work with this? Because it's important that we are fully aligned with what evaluators are reviewing when we send these things.
Exactly, and so and it's also why I mean there are some definitions in there, as I said, because we need vocabulary, but also I think I did, and I put it in the title as well, as I mentioned in the beginning, the word leadership, because I think it is also a question to say we can make research management is a profession that can really make it a difference. I think research managers, if they want to, are change agents.
Yeah.
The key word here being if they want to. But you also need to have some solid ground to stand on. So that's why I devoted a full chapter to leadership and discussing what is leadership in diversity work, because it can be a title, but you can also misuse a title or waste away a leadership title and do nothing about diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership in this area, I think, is trying to do things and taking action. So that is. So I also think that was a very interesting chapter to to write, as well as to say how do we actually develop this sort of leadership, saying that it isn't just about good intentions, but actually building solid ground, defining our values, and how do those values play out in when we're talking about diversity and leadership, because we need to have it needs some sort of a ballast here for us to move forward and use the tools, particularly in the instances where we'll meet pushback, as you said, and we will. I mean, that's just that is just a given. But also, I mean, there are some definitions, there are some tools. But first and foremost, and I think that's also why I landed on diversity literacy as a key term in the book, is to say it's a frame of mind. It is keeping perspective on things, and you can see in here that even if you look at the specific tools, like we have made a model for like a logic model for how to develop an inclusive research support office, a diversity navigator, like a compass where you can, if you have an initiative, you can see how exactly where could the challenges be in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is slightly intangible, more or less, but just creating a frame of mind, because there are very few specific solutions. If it was up to me, there were a lot of easy solutions to implement, but that is not the world we live in. In the real world, this is incredibly complex, and yeah, we have differences in cultural norms, legislation in different countries, what is feasible and not feasible, how we talk about it. And in that world, there are no easy solutions and quick fixes. There are frames of mind, there are different ways to approach things, and finding the right solution for this specific case.
Yeah, and I can see her running through a table of contents. It's you made a nice funnel, so to say. You have the leadership, and then you move down to the research support office,
Yeah.
where like setting goals, meaningful KPIs, how to create policies and procedures, and so on. And then you move down to the individual research managers, the personal
Yeah.
level, and how to handle this as a professional in
Yeah.
that team. So it looks like you made a nice sort of natural flow of from leader to team to individual.
Yes, I've tried, and I can say that chapters were moved around probably 100 times, and then again when I had them in to colleagues for peer review, and it's like, oh, why is this there? You should mention this, and it's like, no, but that's in another chapter. Or yes, but there's a reason why it's after, and yeah, so things were moved around. This was This is where it landed, trying to make some sort of a natural flow from some broader perspectives and then into some narrower fields, also that people. I think it gives a good flow if you read it from one end to the other, but also it makes it possible to narrow down into to specific challenges, as I mentioned.
Anything else about the content that you want to flag as important elements that you have outlined, described?
I think apart from to say, I think it has global relevance, and that is, I mean, I know someone is gonna hit me over the head with that at some point, because but
Not from this podcast.
No. But still, that is of course a challenge that I hopefully succeeded somewhat in that. But I'll also say I've tried to say the reason I made the chapter about the individual research managers, also to say that there are differences in institutions, but there's also differences in research managers. There's a big difference from being a part of a big centrally placed research support office in a comprehensive research intensive university in Western Europe, or being the only research manager in a small department in a minor university in the outskirts of Bulgaria.
Yep.
And that's not to say something bad about Bulgaria, but
nothing. The different conditions, different frameworks,
very different conditions. And I think I tried to make it relevant for everybody, and also bring up the challenges in these collaborations and the role you have, and still try to say, how does leadership look, no matter where you're placed. And embracing the wins. I think it's also one of the challenges, I think, in this area is also that we have created a bit of an environment where we wanted all, and I get that, but sometimes perfect is the enemy of good, and here I think it was important for me that it was pragmatic, and we defined leadership as something where you can actually, and diversity literacy as something where you can actually make wins without having saved the world.
Hello, my name is Chiara Liguori. I've been listening to the podcast for half a year, but I invite you all to listen to it as well.
It's a good bridge.
One would almost think that I was used to podcasts.
That's a good thing with having a podcast as a guest. Jakob, I put in a section here on just out of curiosity and for the listeners also to understand the work behind. Many researchers, if they're listening to this, they would also say, but we need to know how we did this.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's simply from my side. It's a curiosity to see the work behind the book, how you unfolded it, how you dug into it yourself, and so on. So let's just have a short talk about this.
Sure.
How long it took you, how you your research interviews and so on. What's your approach? So
yeah, so I had the epiphany of having a book in me I think in the summer of 24, as I mentioned. I think in July, actually, quite specifically, and it had probably been brewing in the back of my head for a while, and then I submitted the proposal to Emerald in September or October of that year. And then submitted the manuscript by October last year, and ever since there's been proofreading and etc. So it's been a little bit out here in May 12th for the ebook. So almost 2 years process. That being said, this is a lot more than that. a lot of it, and I'll say particularly the thoughts on leadership and on the individual research manager, that those are the two, and then the one on the research support office. Those are what I consider like the three core chapters of the book. Those are to a large extent built on our work with the consultancy, interacting with researchers and with research managers around universities and doing presentations, and the questions we get to see what resonated with people were the questions, and turning that into a comprehensive text more than anything. A lot of that is, of course, also based on books, and some of them are here in the background as well, and research articles. The problem, of course, is that when you use it regularly in training, you forget where you read things. Because I'm not teaching at a university, I'm running practical training as a consultant. So a lot of it was translating that into text. That also required that looking into things like legal frameworks and dealing with pushback. I needed to go more into institutional challenges than we usually do in our training. So there was some reading up on that. But again, so much of the material that is out there, the work that is out there, is focused very much on an HR approach, looking at the institution or looking at the research. So the topic of the research and how you make more inclusive clinical trials. And both are great, but in most cases, they are also written within a particular one cultural context like the US or Europe. And having the global perspective and looking at the research managers and how you may actually make it work without making more of myself than I actually am. So it did require some original thinking. There was a lot trying to make some round holes and square pegs fit together.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is often research management, is that you are trying to reinvent the wheel or navigating no man's land and stuff like that. So there was a lot of just looking out the window with a cup of tea and thinking, how on earth am I going to make this into something that is comprehensive and coherent, and something that is usable for research managers? Because this is also a profession where we don't have a lot of books. We don't have a lot of practical books on what it means to be a research manager. There are a few out there, and I've of course read them and used them. But it's still a profession in development and focusing on specific skills. So some of that thinking will probably be proven wrong or insufficient, and we will have new and better books in time. As you mentioned, we also had the interviews. I have 5 interviews there. They are more cases showcasing how research managers globally think about this. So I have an interview from Canada, as I mentioned, and Senegal, Brazil, Malaysia, and New Zealand. And those are, of course, very, very different cultural contexts, but also context for the development of research managers and the levels of research funding and the maturity of both of the profession. So in that sense, I think it's also just to see how real research managers think about it and navigate it. And it was really, they are very, very different answers to the same questions, depending on where they are from, just to showcase that. And I agree with most of what they say, but there definitely is also have different approaches to how I think about it.
Just for the listeners to be fully on board, don't have to make them very elaborate, but just share with them because you mentioned your consultancy.
Yeah.
Just if you can just share what you and Lachlan you're doing there, just so the people understand.
Yeah, sure. So in DIVERSIUNITY, we do training both on how so as I said in the beginning, how to make diversity and internationalization work in research and research management. So we talk about making inclusive research support offices, but we also provide leadership training on diversity in research projects, both for researchers and research managers, and like a bunch of different things, keynotes. We sometimes do a present at conferences or internal things at universities. So we've been out there and talking to a lot of both researchers and research managers throughout the years, and of course we have drawn, or I have drawn on that in writing this book. I should say that it wasn't that I didn't want to write the book with Lachlan. I did, but he had a book project of his own that he was focusing on that time. So we agreed that I should write this on my own with his blessing, and he has been following it closely and reading all along. So it's not like we don't talk anymore. Quite the contrary. But just to let people know. But yeah, so that is why we have I think, and we are one of the few consultancies out there who has that practical experience in actually working in research management and in the practical, in the front line of research projects and proposal development. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with the researchers doing this work or other people working with diversity. But research projects and working with research is like a parallel universe to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why I thought this book was necessary, because you can read a lot of books about diversity and they are brilliant. And there's a lot of takeaways you can use, but there's also a lot of where you're saying, that's very cute, but that's not how it works in research.
No, and this is also why we have this conversation in this podcast, because many of my listeners, they are sitting with this and preparing their proposals every single day across the whole continent in different cultural contexts, even though it's the EU. And they sit with this. So this is to have a resource like this shortly coming, where at least they have more critical mass in order for them to better understand and to use it actively in the research projects and proposals they're writing and in implementation of the projects. It's excellent. So it's I'm just so happy to see that things are happening like this. And you're like me. You do things. You have a big heart for what you do, Jakob. So you do it. You throw a lot of your own personal spare time into it, and so I have a lot of sympathy for that.
Yeah, and I think for something like this, you have to, because it's still a new thing, and I think it's still at a stage where I'm not sure that the research management profession has landed fully in how they should be integrated into the profession. And we'll probably disagree on that, not you and I, but me and most research managers. I think there should be a core skill in research management, and particularly going forward. I think there is so much of what we consider core skills in research management that is going to be automated with AI. And that's not to say that we are going to be obsolete, but looking at on a lot of things with budgeting, commenting, and editing research proposals, you still need human beings, definitely, but we'll probably be at a stage where one research manager can do several research managers' jobs in the future. Cultural skills and interhuman skills is one of the things that you can't outsource to an AI. And you can even writing a gender equality or a gender analysis for a Horizon Europe project, you actually need quite a lot of skills to make a good one for a specific project. You can easily have ChatGPT write one, and it's bland and generic, and it can kind of work. But if you want it to be good, you actually need quite a lot of skills to ask the right questions to make it right for this project. But the interhuman skills, I think, is going to be crucial, and particularly in a world with increased global tension, where we can see stronger differences in values around the world and a shift away from the global West as dominating the values globally. I think we will have a much more equal collaboration globally. We will see a lot of more global South collaboration. And in that space and new money with different values investing in research, I think having these skills of being able to navigate these things will become more and more important.
I would say the EU, obviously, as an overall strategy with the changing alliances, so to say, and
Sure.
especially from America, that you start to make agreements with India, you make agreements with Brazil, Argentina, and so on, which will also sieve into the funding system most probably. India already has access to a lot of the funding through special calls, obviously. Also the so yes. That's the way things go. That's the way things are flowing. Yeah,
exactly. But I also think there is something to keep in mind for European research managers in this as it opens up. It's easy to say that it is European money, you collaborate with us, and we have a framework and you have to fit into that. And there's some truth to that. But that is also an approach where we don't learn from them. If you look at, let's say, both Canada and New Zealand are now associated with Horizon Europe and can participate in Pillar 2.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they work with gender. Of course, they do. But the work that they have done, and particularly in Canada with First Nations, and the requirements they have for working with diversity in research, we could learn so much. And we could learn so much, and particularly also with in Australia, or in New Zealand, the approaches they have, not they have succeeded fully because they haven't. I don't think anybody ever will. But if we are not open to see that we have something to learn from them, we are missing out on so much. And I think there is a real danger in saying the money is European and the framework that you have to work with is European. You have to adapt to this because you associated with us. Mm-hmm. And I think we're missing out on so much here if that is the approach we have here. Because they are dealing with some very different things. It's also different, and the interviews in the book, even if they're short, illustrate this. Also, just to see how the colleague from Malaysia mentions that they are, of course, working with ethnicity, because Malaysia, there are a lot of ethnicities and religious differences in Malaysia, and they have to make it work. Mm-hmm. And they do, and we could learn from that. Because it's a different way of navigating these things, and I can be worried.
On that note, we need to move into the final phase of this conversation. Yep. So that's your word, and that's why you wrote the book, to help on. Now, the last, before we have the toughest challenge as always, finalization and release. And here maybe we already covered what I have here. But so you, how far are you? Is the book finished? Have you put last full stop in there?
I think so. I got the proof for the book right after New Year's. Happy New Year to me. And reading through it all again, that was absolutely painful. And it's surprising, isn't it? You've been through it, and you had it in peer review, and just sometimes just reading sentences and thinking, "What on earth did I mean by that?
Uh-huh.
Well, I got through that, submitted all the the changes, and they're looking through them now as we speak. I'm a little uncertain if I get another read through. I don't think I do. But so I've been through it. I think I said put the last full stop in the book. I have approved the cover for the book, and the page for the book with Emerald is up. It's not open for pre-order order yet, but I think we are definitely getting there. It's the small things if there's anything left. I'm just waiting to hold my baby.
Yeah, and what is the timeline? Do you know when it will be released?
Yes, the ebook will be out on May 12th.
Yeah.
And the physical book will be out on 2nd June.
Yeah, and I would say we released this podcast episode in probably early April. So what I will do, I will re-push this episode when the book is launched, so you have sort of a extra promotion there for your book. Of course,
yeah, sounds very good.
That. Anything else you want to share about the last part of the process here? Reflections on but you already shared the impact that you hope, and what
yeah. No, but I'm just really excited for it to be out there and see how it's being received. I'm of course hoping that people will book us for training and talks and all sorts of things. That's not that's no surprise. But also, I'm really looking forward to engaging with the research management community in Europe and elsewhere, because I think it is a really exciting, as I said before, I think it is a really exciting time, because the profession is growing, it is developing, but we're also in a difficult time, both with AI, but also with global tensions around the world, making international collaboration more of a challenge. And where does research management stand in all of that? So I think and that is the background for that, with war in Ukraine and now in Iran and big parts of the Arab Peninsula as well. It's a sad background to have this conversation on, but this is where we're at. And things are definitely changing, and be in the middle of that is of course interesting as well. And I think that we will have some big discussions about some of these issues in the coming years. And if I should finish on something, I think in the bigger picture, as I said, I'm trying to provide practical skills, definitions, how to manage to tell how we can work with this pragmatically. I'm also hoping in the last chapters I'm writing about what I hope research managers and research management associations will do with this and take a stand. And I do a bit of a historical walkthrough of how things have developed both with human rights and academia. And one of the points there is to say, this has only gone one way. There can be setbacks and it can go a big back and forth. But looking over history, we have only underrepresented groups have only received more recognition, more rights, and being more and more included in society. Right now, we are probably seeing a bit of pushback most places. There is a real danger for research managers and research management organizations to follow that in order to be part of the research ecosystem. And my challenge is, which side of history do we want to be on? I think there's a real danger that as an slightly immature profession still, or newly mature, a teenage profession, that we don't have strong enough long legs, and in the long run we land on the wrong side of history in this, and don't have the trust of underrepresented groups, and that is going to come back and kick us in the ass.
That's a nice ending. No, to end on. Thanks. Now, Jakob, the toughest challenge in writing the book? Reading it again?
Reading it, that was painful. Yeah, no, but it of course takes time. I would say one of the biggest challenge I think has been to navigate. I think there are two challenges in writing the book. One was to make it coherent, as I said. And I want to go into so much detail, but not going in so much detail because that's not what people need at this. This is a practical guide as to get an introduction to the topic. So the compromises you have to make from a professional stance, that is brutal going through this, and making enough and repeating yourself enough so that people can read the individual chapter without it making it horrible to read through. I think that those were some balances that were really difficult to navigate. I think I landed at a fairly sensible place, but having those are not binaries, but having those different directions to navigate and see where you land on different specters, so to speak. That was hard, and then just takes forever.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, it's been 2 years, and that's not even long for many books, but 2 years is a long time. I'm really looking forward to be out there.
But it's also, and let's just it's because it's very important for people like you and me. When we do podcasts and do things like this, it's one of the theories in podcasting, to monetize or to try to have something to build on, to write a book. Build on. So it's definitely in that seen also from that angle, with all the heart you put into it, it's also going to help you. You have something to refer to. You have something you can use.
Definitely. But I also think, and I'm not going to lie, that's of course part of it. But I also think that if you are when you have an academic background, and I think particularly in the humanities, as I do, you have this idea of writing a book, and it's always been so. There's like a manifestation of I did something, something tangible, something that is out there. Like
I get it.
No matter how much or little I monetize on this, I like saying I left my mark on this. I tried to do something here, and then we'll see what happens.
When I'm not here anymore, there's a book in the library with my name on it.
Yeah, there is exactly, and that is something. There was something.
On that note, thanks, Jakob. I'm just going to land the plane before we end the episode. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you like what you're hearing here, go to my website, thegrant.eu. It's more than a website, it's a platform. There's a lot of content there. I have 220 episodes now in my library of podcast episodes. Not everything on diversity in research, but I will leave, as mentioned, the links for these specific episodes for you. But scroll through, browse through, see if there's anything, because there's lots of research in there, and it's categorized so you can find it easily. And then when you're there, and then when you're there, and you think, wow, this is absolutely fantastic. How can I support this guy? And you can do that by submitting in the online form, accessing my email list, subscribing to an email list. So thanks in advance for that. And of course, connect with me on LinkedIn, and go and like the Grant page on the LinkedIn. That is where the fun happens. That's where the flow is. That's where I like stuff. That's where I pick up a lot of my guests. So thanks in advance for that. I think that's it.
Sounds good. And buy the book.
Yes. keep an eye out. I will, if you connect with me and connect with Jakob, you also have his LinkedIn address, LinkedIn profile there. You will, of course, have it in your flow if you like. So,
Sounds perfect.
no.
Cheers.
Jakob, thanks for coming by. Let's say goodbye. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Jakob's personal LinkedIn site. You'll also find a link to his company, DIVERSIUNITY. There's of course a link to the book if you're interested in buying it, and finally there are links to the earlier episodes with Jakob on this podcast. Next week I have a guest in that went from being a PhD to being a trainer on how to acquire funding. You can indeed look forward to that.